Okay, good morning, everyone. How are you? How is everything right now? We're admitting everyone in. And if uh, if everyone can be ready and everything else, yes. I hope you had a great weekend. Right now, I will share with you the PowerPoint presentation on overpopulation. Okay. Last time we talked about overpopulation. Yes. Good morning, Ron. Good morning, Asma, and everyone else. Okay. So until I open up the PowerPoint presentation, I want you to tell me what you remember from last time. What did we talk about? Yes. So if you can open up the camera, that would be great. Okay. And we can talk about what we, some main points about overpopulation, the definition of it, why is it important? What are some characteristics and things we talked about last time in the video? Okay, so Nuran and Asma, if you can share with us. Yes, until I open up the PowerPoint presentation on it. Okay, can you hear me? Yes? Okay, so this is taking some time because it's kind of slow. So until then, we talked about overpopulation, and its main definition is basically that what the country, the world, the region has the capacity to hold of population, this place, the region, world, or country has over that level or that capacity. Okay, so for example, Egypt has overpopulation. Why? Because its tools, its capacity, what it's made for, the maximum capacity that it can hold is a certain number, and obviously, as you know, the number that actually is much, much more. Okay, it's even more than double or triple. So in that case, this is called overpopulation, and it's a big problem. Okay. So, good morning, Nuran. How are you? How is everything? Good job. You have the camera open. Asma, if you can have the camera open, that would be great. Yes. And I want you to discuss with me. Okay. Um, and if you're interactive and you discuss really well, like every class, you get extra credit for the participation and everything else. Okay. Okay. So let us start right now with the proper precision. So can you tell me, until I open up the presentation, what are some characteristics? What do you remember? So I talked about the definition, okay? If you want to add to the definition, if you remember any kind of main characteristics, what are the countries that have overpopulation? You said Egypt, right? Does China have overpopulation? Is it
I think India.
excellent job, India. Good job. Yes, this is Nuran. Good job. And India, China, okay. There are, Egypt is one of them, right? So, and we said that mainly in the world today, as a total, there's overpopulation, okay? So the world in most of its regions does not have the capability to hold most of its population, okay? The tools, the capacity, and everything else. Now, there are some regions that are average, near the level of overpopulation, but not there, okay? Or, they don't have that problem. Okay, they don't have the problem of overpopulation. Some regions actually they like to have people, and so this is interesting, right? Now, some regions, but most of the world is overpopulated. Okay, and even the places that want populations, or they want work capacity, they want maybe a workforce or services or whatever reason, Usually it's really rare in today's world rather than before, and it's limited. It's not like before, for example, where it was much more in the world. So the more the world is developing and moving on, okay, the more there's this problem. So why is it important? Why do we talk about this problem in sociology? Why do you think? Why is it important to talk about overpopulation? Is it affecting the world negatively? Okay. Remember we said that there is something negative outcomes to the world from overpopulation. Asma and the newcomers, if you can tell me what they are, okay? That would be great. Yes.
Hey, I'm sorry I'm late.
No, it's okay. We're still starting, so it's fine. Okay.
Okay, can you tell me what we're talking about?
Okay, we're talking about overpopulation. So I'm asking, what is the definition of overpopulation? What are some of if you were here in the last session, the video, what are some of the problems that overpopulation causes? Okay, does overpopulation directly cause, these problems or indirectly? Like we said last time, some of them directly, some of them indirectly. Okay, so some of them, there are actually other things in society or social problems or world problems that cause these negative effects. So if you remember things that we talked about from the video, if you remember different things that we talked about before about overpopulation, you can share with us in class, okay, and everyone else too.
Miss, I have
Yes.
one.
Yes, please do. Who is this?
Nuran.
Nuran. Yes, Nuran.
It affects us negatively because of the pollution,
Excellent.
of the cars, like that, in every country.
Very good point. Because of the pollution, okay, because of the cars, because of the
Not enough sources.
limited resources. That's an excellent point. That is actually one of the direct problems of overpopulation, right? We said most of these pollution, everything, yes, it's because of overpopulation, but also because of other social problems in the world. Like, for example, maybe the culture, okay, the way that the families consume is very impractical with world capacity, right? Or the different cultures. So you have, for example, with limited resources, right? So if you have, for example, a a kind of population in a country like Egypt, for example. Imagine if you didn't have these overpopulation problems, you wouldn't have the problems you face in traffic. Okay, the problems you face, limited resources. What do you think? In apartments, right? Apartments are usually very expensive for the average citizen. Okay, so obviously that affects it. So if you have a limited resources of apartments, cars, and everything that you can imagine, things would be more expensive in the world market and in Egypt. Okay, so that is also included. Excellent job. Okay. Okay, so people are coming.
Also,
yes.
It can also affect the number of available jobs.
That is an excellent point. Okay, you get extra credit for today. That's great. Everyone, did you listen to that point? There's a limited job market, okay, limited opportunities for people. So that means that there is high unemployment. There's a high number of unemployment. Unemployment means what? What does unemployment mean? Does anyone know?
Not being able to find a job.
Excellent job. Not being able to find a job is unemployment. And the status is that you're still finding a job or you gave up, okay? Or in the sense it's impossible because the situation is, it's impossible for you to find a job. Unfortunately, usually in overpopulated countries, China, India, Egypt, and other countries in the world, this is the main characteristics. There's high unemployment. Now, there are other countries that have it because of other reasons, like maybe it's ineffective, ineffective job market system or the country, or it's not developed in that region or in that era, but usually overpopulation exists. Excellent point. Okay, so we said limited resources, unemployment, pollution, and we said pollution can be direct or indirect. Okay, so not necessarily it's the direct cause. So it doesn't mean that, for example, if China has overpopulation, that's the reason why it has pollution. Okay, it's one of the indirect causes. So be precise here, you know, in the sense that it can be direct and it can be indirect. Okay, so that's what's important here. Okay, so we said unemployment, pollution, limited resources, traffic, right? It's part of it. Okay. We also said that, you know, there's so many people usually in the consumption world, right? If you go to a supermarket, if you want to buy things, okay, you won't find them, or it's really crowded, right? If you look at the different kind of what's it called? The different kind of countries or societies that have overpopulation, you'll find they have huge issues of getting everyday needs, you know, in line or really crowded. Okay, and not only that, you know, you can't have a kind of quiet and private life. Okay, even in neighborhood, like the way the neighborhood is, right? You don't have a private life. How would that affect negatively people? Like if you don't have a private life, or it's very crowded, how would that be affected?
I think not having a private life can affect you negatively,
Excellent
like
job.
by stressing you out and all of that. So,
I agree
yeah.
too. Stress, not only that, would you be productive as a person in society? No, right? You would have so many limits and so many kind of, you know, things that makes you not effective, not kind of a good well-being in life, which is important for a usual, you know, citizen person in society, right? Having a quiet family, a productive family. Okay,
Yeah, you'll start hating your country at some point.
excellent. That's a very good point. So not only hating your country, hating your society and everything. This all can become from overpopulation. Okay. Um, so Nuran, good job, excellent job. What about the others? Can you tell us, you know, some ideas and input about overpopulation? What are some problems here for overpopulation? Okay, so if you can open up the camera, if you have it open, that's great. For overpopulation. Yes, you know, you can add on to what we said, or you can have new ideas, which is great, which is even greater. That's extra credit. If you have new great ideas like Nuran did with unemployment and the other ideas.
I'm not sure about, but I think taxes.
Taxes, excellent point. Obviously, if you have overpopulation, the taxes will not be effective, right? Like in the sense of people would think maybe in overpopulation, it depends, right? Overpopulation, that means that you have more taxes, but if you don't have people that work and are very successful in life and are effective, you won't have the taxes, right? You have actually less taxes, okay? And in that sense, what would that happen? The government would have to be involved more, right? So not only the government has less taxes, but also be involved. Okay, so they are more and more involved, paying subsidies, helping out the country, because obviously people, if they don't produce money, how would they give in money, right? That's an important point. Good job. Okay, so obviously as a country, as a government, you want to have a production of money so that citizens can pay taxes, right? And you can have your own share so that you can improve the country. But if you have overpopulation, unemployment, and all the different boundaries and divisions, and only that, all the different problems that it can cause, that will cause the average population not to produce well, right? And so in this case, you know, opposite than what you would think, actually people would not have money to pay taxes, right? If there's taxes will be low compared to their wage. So in that sense, the government has to go in and pay from their own box or from their own budget. And so that's more of a pressure on the government, right? Excellent point. Okay. Okay, so yes. Okay, so here the connection is excellent job, Asma. Rising living costs also, good point. Asma, can you explain to us how is it rising costs? I like that point, okay? How is it rising living costs? Like I said with the consumption. Well, if you have overpopulation, how do the prices rise? I like that point. Okay.
Because I don't know actually how to explain it, but only a small number, a percentage of the population would be able to cover all their needs and wants.
Excellent
But
job.
the others, I'm doing lack of money,
Good job.
so I don't think they'll be able.
Excellent. So this is a really good point here, okay? Because there only a small portion of the population have a lot of money, the rest don't, which usually happens in countries that have overpopulation. And so that means that there will be high costs. High costs will be for the people, like Asmat said, that have a lot of money. As for low costs would be for people, for most of the population actually, that don't have that money, right? So when they want to go and buy, they can't. Okay, they can only buy certain things, that maybe are subsidized, or subsidized means that it's funded by the government. Okay, so these are really important points here. We will talk about them more. Hopefully, I think after tomorrow we have a session together. So on Tuesday, and make sure you review the PowerPoint that is on the course Sonovia. Okay, we will for sure talk about it next time. For today, we're going to watch like a nice movie about overpopulation. Last time we talked more from India, right? And problems that India and other countries similar to India face. Okay, from overpopulation and problems that overpopulation causes directly, and others that overpopulation doesn't cause directly. There are other problems we said that is more from different kind of perspectives, and also other issues in the world that cause like different cultural values, different traditions from other cultures, different ways that cultures interact with society and with the environment and with everyday life. Like for example, it said that the U.S. actually its consumption of different things causes more pollution out of the chemicals that come out of it than for example India, although India has a population. So this is important. The problems that we talked today are very important. Usually they are direct, right? Unemployment, rising living costs, very huge crowds of consumption, okay? And more and more and more. Right now we're gonna watch a movie, and this movie is gonna have another social problem from another country for overpopulation. So we'll look at that movie. Okay. Let's. Okay, this is another perspective here, which is very important. Um, China has a policy of only having one child. Okay, so this policy is that every family, any family in China any Chinese family can only have one child. So, so we're gonna see, this video of why they changed this policy. Okay, so.
And I've been using Doodly now for a few weeks to create these fun videos to share with patients.
Okay, great.
This video is sponsored by Dashlane. Conveniently store your passwords and get 10% off premium when you sign up with the link in the description. China is huge, the kind of huge that's hard to wrap your head around. Beginning in the 1950s, its population exploded from an already respectable 500 million to almost 3 times that today, which makes it bigger than all of North America, Australia, and Europe combined. Its consistent economic growth has made it one of the world's great powers, with enough military might to claim the strategically important South China Sea, and enough influence to begin the most ambitious infrastructure project in history, a $1 trillion network of ports, pipelines, and railroads across 65 countries. But none of this was inevitable. While China rapidly and forcefully industrialized, it faced massive famine and housing shortages. Its economy needed time to develop, and the world deeply feared overpopulation. China's response was the famous one-child policy, which limited ethnic Chinese families to a single child, with a few exceptions. To enforce the law, women were forcefully sterilized and fined for having too many children. The problem is, it worked. Or something did. Historians doubt it prevented all 400 million births claimed by the government. But China's total fertility rate, the average number of children a woman will have in her lifetime, has fallen all the way to 1.6, well below the 2.1 needed to maintain its size. There simply aren't enough children. And in a few short years, China will begin to shrink. The one-child policy was repealed in 2015, but it won't make a significant difference, because it only ever sped up the unavoidable. As nations develop, they choose to have drastically fewer children. China's problem isn't unique. About half the world lives in a country that is or soon will be in the same position. But it is uniquely big, and the timing uniquely bad. The story of China in the 21st century is just as much about demographics as it is GDP, military power, and the rule of Xi Jinping, all of which will be seriously tested by the coming demographic crisis. To understand why it's such a threat and whether something can be done, we need to look a little more closely. As individuals, humans are unpredictable. We don't know what someone will do.
Okay, so here did you notice they're talking about the one-child policy. The one-child policy is basically that in China, every family cannot get more than one child. Okay, that was for many years. And the Chinese government claimed that is why that's why the population decreased a lot, okay, which was an improvement for China and the prospective Chinese government and their research. However, many people in the world and organizations like the United Nations and others, their research shows otherwise. It did not, okay, in the sense of it caused many problems and there were just more and more children. So in a sense, it does seem that it decreases the population, okay, but it actually doesn't. It does the opposite effect, okay. So in that sense, there were many social problems that people wanted more and more children. So you want a society that actually, you know, is with you in the social problem of overpopulation, right? You want a society that from inside out, they see the value of, having a kind of social culture of decreasing children, not enforced. When you enforce it, you have other problems. And then in the sense of it's highly valued to have children, and then also the many problems that arises from it. So it has an opposite effect, which makes it, China having more problems with overpopulation. Okay, so in the beginning you have one problem, and then this policy in the perspective of, other organizations, research outside of China and outside of Chinese government and the world were saw it differently. Okay, so this is important. So this was supposed to be a solution, right, by the Chinese government. Do you see? So this solution, okay, to the social problem, do you think it was effective? The one-child policy?
I think that it's Probably ineffective
Excellent job. Raheem.
because instead of having many children that were born at different times, now they have many children born at the same time.
Excellent. That's a
That means
very good
that
point.
they will grow at the same time and have jobs at the same time, which won't affect the overpopulation, it will just make it worse.
Excellent. I agree with Ranim. Okay, that's a really good point. Number one. Number two, as I said, it makes other problems in society is how you perceive children, right? You're supposed to make society to have activities, traditions, and to perceive and be part of the the solution, right? Be part of the change in the sense of in today's world, like for example in Egypt, okay, when you go for example in the supermarket, you always want to be organized, right? You don't want to be like having all these stuff right in the middle of the lane. You want to share, okay? Why? It's something in the culture, okay? Because there are a lot of people, or in traffic, for example, right? So this is really important. Yes. Okay. Okay. 1 second. Okay. 1 second. Okay. So we are right now completing the exams in schools, so it's going great. Okay, I'm sorry for the interruption, but things, we need to correct the exams and finish up. So, and for the overpopulation, we were talking about Egypt, for example, you have a culture, right? It's not enforced by the government that when you go to supermarket, you have to be in this lane and at this time period. What would happen? What do you think would happen if it's enforced? Like the traffic, this neighborhood can go in this time, that neighborhood can go in that time, or whatever division it can make. Okay, what do you think would happen? Would that be realistic? Would it increase the overpopulation problem? Yes, it would, right? Okay, it wouldn't be effective. It's not like a very um, an effective social problem, right? So that's what's important here. Okay. So does anyone have any questions or any other comment on that? Okay. I just want you, when we're talking about this, to think about the social problems. How can we be creative? How can it be effective? We can base it on research, we can base it on different ideas, right? And in the end, as much as we do, when it's put in practice, it's a different world. This is what we have to know, okay? That in practice, it's always different, right? And we always have to make it, as much as we can, effective. Okay, so think about the social problem and what kind of solution can we make? A solution that's kind of realistic, that's effective, that decreases the problem as much as possible. Okay, let's look at here.
Do or say or buy because they don't know. Impulse guides your decision to add guacamole just as it does what college you attend. But countries don't care about individuals, they care about groups. And the beauty of demography is that groups are predictable, very. Of course, nothing is certain. Theories compete and estimates vary, but it's much easier to guess how many 18-year-olds will have in 30 years and, in general, what they'll be doing than, say, the next 3 decades of foreign policy or culture. No country has yet figured out how to manufacture 15-year-olds, not even China. And that means population today is a good peek at population tomorrow. When this information is combined with geopolitics or economics, it goes from mildly interesting to downright powerful. Here's what we know about China. Each of these lines is one of its age groups, with babies at the bottom and elderly at the top. First are consumers. From 18 to 45, we know people are spending. They're going to school, taking out loans, saving, not so much. And despite what this group says about millennials, they're very important because consumer spending is one of the biggest.
Okay, this is a very important part of overpopulation. As you can see, you find the bar graph, right? And you find the age group. So you find here, usually in overpopulation graphs, you have a divided on the age group. So you have 15 to 19. You see how many people there are. Then 20 to 24, 25, 29, 30, 34 are the biggest ones. Okay? The biggest one is 45 to 49. So you have 45 to 49 year olds, 30, 34, and 25 to 29. Obviously, this is actually good when you have big part in that age group because they're the ones that that actually produce, right? They produce, they get money, they're active in society. The other ones over 49, okay, and under 20 are actually usually don't produce, right? They are reliable and dependent on the middle. Okay, this is a very important theory that the middle part of society, which are the age group between 20 to 50, should always be the biggest ones always. Okay, so they're the age groups that should be big because they're the producers. The others are dependent on them because obviously they don't work, they're not as active, they may up above 50, they may have diseases, they may have different problems that they can't be active as the one below. As for below 20, the same thing, okay? They're still young, they're still growing up, they're still in school, they're actually in need of their family, in need of society, in need of the government, in need of everything else around them. The same thing with over 50, okay? Do you agree with this theory that I just said? What do you think? Do you agree with it?
Yes, I agree.
Excellent. Okay, good job, Nuran. What about the others? Do you agree? Do you agree that that actually is an important perspective that the average this age group between 20 and 50 that you see here, okay, is actually really important, okay, for it to be always active and to be the biggest one. So this should be in theoretical terms biggest in number always. Okay, when you have the biggest number, that means it's a positive sign for society and for the culture. Okay, the other ones are dependent on it, right? Okay, the other ones are dependent on this age group. Okay, because obviously they need money, they need more money, they need more attention, they need more efforts and attention from society. They are the ones dependent on society, as however the ones in the middle are not. Okay? Yes. So any questions on that? Okay? Excellent. Let me erase this and we'll continue. Okay. Yes. So let's exit this. Okay.
Contributors to economic growth. Next are the moneymakers. These people have paid off their debt. Now they're saving for retirement. And even though they're a smaller share of the population, they generate most of its income. In the US, for example, they alone pay half of all income tax. That makes them a government's best friend. Finally, at age 65, people are done working, done saving, and largely done spending. What's special about this group is how quickly and how dramatically it begins. In a single day, a retiree often goes from contributing the highest taxes of their lifetime to almost nothing as they slowly collect pensions and Social Security. For right now, let's ignore the total number of people. China could be bigger like this or smaller like this. What's important is the balance between these different groups. And that's why this graphic is so useful. It's called a population pyramid because for most of history, it has been a constant stream of babies at the bottom and a small number of deaths with each subsequent year. A good example is Niger, where the average woman has 6.5 children. Mortality is very high, making the average age only 15. But much of the world no longer looks like a pyramid. In China, it's turning upside down. As you can see, there are two big bulges in its population, here and here. The first is currently in its peak spending years. The second, right in the prime of its high-earning, high-tax contributing years. It's no wonder China is seeing massive economic growth. But that's what makes a
Do you see why always they say China, although has overpopulation, is the number one country with overpopulation, but however, there are different positive side of it, right? That's the number one reason why. Okay, and other reasons also. That's not also the number. There are many different reasons. Number one is that instead of the society based its like they showed in Niger. Niger has it. Okay, although Niger has overpopulation, obviously, but not as big as China and other countries. Okay, but it has a big problem, which is that most of its population is here, under. Okay, it's actually in this time period, in the what we call infant to 9 years old. Okay, so this is really bad for you to have the most here. This is really bad. Okay, why? Because they're highly in need of society. Okay, and here it was really small, right? When it's really small here, obviously there is no income to the government by taxes, no income to society, no income to the population dependent on them, which is the babies and children that are growing up. Okay, now also the other problem can be, as I said, if here in this part it's also really big. Okay, that is very bad also because it's dependent on the population in the middle. Okay, so the secret here, one of the one of the main reasons why China is so successful in its economic growth, although it has this problem, is because of the fact that in the middle, obviously, it has the biggest number. Okay, do you see? In the middle has the biggest number. So the middle is what's important here. Okay? The middle are the age group between 20 until 50. Yes, so 50.
Hey, Miss, is it because children can't spend, so the spenders, like the average age in Nigeria, are not spenders?
Excellent question.
So that
It's not
affects
about children don't
the.
spend. Children are in need, right? When you have a baby, the baby can't work, right? The baby can't get their own money. The baby can't move. The baby is there, right? The baby needs full attention from you. Full attention as a human being, full attention as in money-wise, full attention as in security, full attention as in everything. When they need all this material, who will provide them with this material? Who in this age group will provide them this material? That's very important. Good question. This age group, right?
The middle one.
The middle one. Excellent job, Noor. Yes. So who asked the question, Asma or Rami? The one before. Okay.
Me, I asked.
Rami, excellent question. So whoever is in this age group are the ones that have the health, the ones that have the work, right? So always this age group are the ones that are employed, the ones that are really strong, the ones that are effective in society, they're active. Okay, so obviously between 20 years old and 50 is different than over 50 and below, right? Below, you're still growing up. Obviously, if you're a baby, you need full attention. You are fully dependent on society in everything you could think about. When you grow up, less, but still. Okay, sometimes people debate that even when you grow up, you need to go to school, you need to have more finance, more attention in all aspects of physical, mental, emotional, everything you can think about, right? The same thing with over 50, but over 50, they have other problems of obviously sickness, insurance, right? Taking care of themselves, making sure that, They can go the everyday life that before was easy for them. Now, when they're older, it's harder and harder and harder, right? So, as you know from your family or from society or from everyday life, what do you think? Like, is a 70-year-old like a 50-year-old in society? What do you think?
No,
No. How are they different? This is very important.
a 70-year-old is retiring. They don't work. They don't do
Why?
anything.
Are
But
they
at
weak usually?
what?
Are they weak? So usually the average, they're weak, right? In a sense of
Yeah, they're done paying their debts. They're done paying taxes. Now they're just retiring and all